Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 18th of June. So looking at the euro dollar, and I'm just looking at the weekly chart. I don't normally look at this on a daily basis as such. Well, not on the videos anyway. So where are we? Well, it looks like we're pitching open for this week, fractionally below the trend line I drew on there. Now, could be argued that you should redraw this, in which case fine. There we go. It's sitting bang on the pretty much bang on the trend line, so argued because of that previous point here on the 28th of the 5th, which it moved away from, so just above it in that case. So watching that carefully though, and to see if we start to continue the sell-off sort of that we saw last week. If it pushes back down towards that weekly 100, we'll see how we push on from there, but it obviously does look weak. We didn't get much of a bounce out on Friday. Now there is the potential to push up further. The weekly pivot sitting there up at about 1662, somewhere in that sort of region, if it was to push that way. But to be fair, looking just at this technical pattern on the 4 hourly, it looks like it's going to be selling off some more. Momentum died out of the move effectively with this bounce, but all the same, it doesn't look like the clearest in terms of, or certainly not the most positive movement there. There is a marginal gap that's just above us, which I'll wait and see if we see any movement this morning back towards that. But it's all over its daily pivot, so there's no target there. And it really is just the case how it opens this morning. We got no significant news out at all until 6:30 when we got a couple of speakers. We've got Draghi speaking at 6:30, but that's a conference. There's another conference speaker at 9 PM, so it's really late on. It's the opening remarks at 6:30 PM this evening, so there really isn't anything significant with China on holiday. Nothing to speak of in news-wise. So as I say, we just need to wait how this pans itself out. Technically, as I said, it still looks weak. However you look at it, it looks weak from here. It's just whether or not it pushes on beyond the bodies of Friday's candles, or whether it continues on the downside there and breaks those lows. Okay, the pound. The pound double bottom basically on Friday. It's also effectively looking weakish, although that double bottom may suggest we get a bit of a bounce. But when you look down at the 4 hourlies here, and it looks like we could see further continuation. It's a weak movement in this price action. Again, has the weekly pivot up above at 133.12.13 sort of zone, with that 4 hourly 21. So any break of the upside there of that 4 hourly 8 may suggest we could see some further upside. It may give us a bit of a target towards that sort of zone. But again, looking at this hourly time frame, and it just looks weak. So we'll just see how it runs out this morning, but it could well be that I'm looking on the short side. Just need to see what happens post 8 o'clock. Dollar yen. So dollar yen still looking like it may want to pitch up higher. It as ever, there's always seems to be always options that sit around it and cause things to slow up a lot. So we'll just see how it pans out. I'm just looking to see if there's a bundle of options on my news. I'm just waiting for that to reload. But technically then, at the moment, it looks like it's back. It's hit the weekly pivot and it's bounced off that. There is certainly potential for further upside. Now, let me just see if those options are... Sorry, I've just taken a few seconds to see where the IF options expiring today. So these are the ones that are really going to be holding it. It's not a significant amount at all, actually. Very light on the option front, so not expecting too much hassle there then. Okay, took a while to load. Okay, a 60-minute time frame here. Well, all this really points to potential further upside. We did see some real weird old days last week, and I would be waiting a while longer before I tried trading any upside on this, because of the just purely how it spun around at certain times. The day at 7 o'clock last week chopped around, and it's been a choppy old market. It could just continue in that vein. There's quite a lot of rhetoric going backwards and forwards about trade with China and the US and China, and it could adversely affect the dollar yen, obviously. Okay, Aussie dollar. Well, talk about trend lines. Here you go, spot on the trend line at the moment, sitting weak, weekly pivot swing sitting in now. Sorry, I'm just going off that weekly pattern, but certainly looking weak there. Again, it's pretty close to a double bottom here. It's not too far off of it. The potential of a weekly pivot above is always a draw, but hasn't even managed, unlike some of the other markets, to be having a bit of a retrace on Friday. It didn't manage any retrace as such, and it's just continued selling off at the moment. Have we got a chance of a bit more of a retrace? Well, of course, but at this stage it just looks weak, and it may well continue that move to the downside. Okay, so finally wrapping up with Canadian dollar, and that likewise is weak against the US dollar. It's continued to push up on Friday. Solid day is broken from these previous levels. In fact, I will go out to the weekly on this for a moment because it's sitting bang on the upper trend line that's sort of sitting there. Now these can be weak, certainly weaker than on an upward trend. We'd expect the lower line to be the strength, and where you'd see buying from in this particular case, but you can get traders selling into these trend lines here. They may sell into them. They're weaker. Often when the markets roll, it will pushing up there, it will just run straight through. You see also there's a downward trend line here. Now that was more important a week or two ago, 2 weeks ago there, and we saw a reaction off of that downward trend line, but the very fact that it wasn't much of a reaction and it's broken through last week suggests, well, potentially more upside here for the Canadian dollar. So that's where I'm expecting things to go. Okay, so finally, just wrapping up, as I said, there is no news announcements of any significance. There are some speakers. Draghi at 6:30 this evening, so little to drive these markets unless we hear anything going backwards or forwards from the US and China. So just watch out for Trump's tweets. Have a great day. Bye for now.